Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Civic Luncheon Lecture. I want to welcome all the students, faculty, staff, members of the community, and those watching on Access TV. I'm Greg Stevens. I'm coordinator and option leader for Tech Management Program. Before I introduce Mike, a couple housekeeping items. Feel free to write down questions, or you can ask questions at the end of Mike's presentation. We'll have a roving mic that will circulate around, and then there's a feedback form on the table that I'd like to ask you to fill out to give us some feedback. This is our 6th year for the Civic Luncheon Lectures. We cover trends and current issues that are taking place. It's an opportunity for the community to mix with students and faculty. We feel we've got an interesting topic today. Let me just tell you a little bit about next month. Next month, the topic will be immigration in Kansas. We've got a great speaker on that. And then in April, another great topic, how Bitcoin, blockchain, and other cryptocurrencies are changing the world. So make sure you tell all your friends to show up for those two events. The topic today is a topic that is gaining popularity, Design Thinking 101, Innovation and Branding. Our speaker is Michael Oetken. He's been with K-State over 18 years. He's recognized for design and marketing with, I counted 13 awards from the National Circle of Excellence CASE Awards. He's currently an assistant professor here and former creative director for the Division of Communication and Marketing on the main campus. And I'm going to leave you with a quote from Droby Ben Menachem. It says, "You don't have to be creative to be creative." So let's give a warm welcome to Michael.
Thank you.
We were born for greatness. We're not nameless, we're not faceless. We were born for greatness. We're not nameless, we're not faceless. We were born for greatness.
All right, welcome. So we were born for greatness. That's kind of my theme today. I think everybody's born for greatness. How great kind of just depends on you. So today for my talk, it's going to be kind of 3 different phases. The first section, I'm going to kind of talk about my background, where I came from, how I got involved in design. Then I'm going to get into design thinking. We're going to cover the basics. So like the title said, it's Design Thinking 101. So this is kind of an introduction to design thinking. So hopefully you'll have some techniques and tips that you walk away with to investigate that more and start your own design thinking. So, and then the last part, I'm going to go over some of my work with K-State and just kind of talk about it, talk about how different techniques we used for video, print, web, a lot of different media. So, there I am, born for greatness. So that's in Colorado. My parents used to take us out to Colorado all the time. It was awesome. I thought I'd end up living in Colorado in the mountains because I love the mountains. We used to go skiing all the time. So I was really blessed and lucky to have parents that would take us different places like that, so we got to travel quite a bit. I'm from Otis, Kansas. Does anybody know where Otis, Kansas is? Anybody been to Otis? Couple? Okay, so it's a little tiny town west of Salina here, kind of south of Hayes, if you know where Hayes is. So that's where I grew up. My dad's a farmer. He is a third-generation farmer, so I kind of broke the trend there. But there's my dad and me out in the harvest there in western Kansas. So harvest time was always a really big event for us growing up on the farm. So I thought I was going to be a farmer. And I apologize for the projector. We were having some trouble with it. The picture isn't showing up real well, but so there I am. I'm on the old tractor there, getting ready to go farming. But being on the farm, my dad taught me that hard work equals great rewards. So that's something that I still hold true today, and I try to instill in my students in the classes that I teach. Work hard, and they'll pay off in the end. And so I'll get this out right away. I love Star Wars. So there I am, Darth Vader, my brother in his creepy Bugs Bunny mask there. But yeah, I love Star Wars, so just wanted to throw that out there. If you ever come to my office, you'll see Star Wars stuff everywhere. And my wife hates it because our basement's just full of Star Wars crap. So my dad taught me to be creative. So he's a farmer, but he's one of the most creative guys that I know. When I was little, I loved aviation. I knew I was going to be a pilot. I was going to fly helicopters. I was going to go into the Air Force. And so he saw how much I really enjoyed that. And so he actually built this helicopter here for me, this little toy. So during the winters, he didn't have a lot to do. So in the shed, he put together this helicopter, had like a rotor that turned and everything. And I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. I mean, all my friends came over, and it was awesome. So, right away, I started being introduced to the creativeness. So you don't have to be a graphic designer to be creative. My dad's still a farmer. He still farms out there. I was in 4-H. Has anybody ever been in 4-H? It's an awesome program. Taught me to be responsible. Learned a lot of responsibilities through 4-H. So there I am with my heifer cow. She was grand champion, by the way. Rocking the cowboy boots and the cowboy belt and everything. So, and then I learned to solve problems. So this is me and my friend in high school, and there was this competition where we would invent a product. And so we decided. We were like fascinated with Nike, Michael Jordan, that was, when we were growing up, that was the thing. So we love shoes, we'd like draw shoes. And so we said, well, for this competition, we were gonna invent this shoe where it had like water in the, we built like this sole for the shoe, and it's supposed to give you like superpowers, you like jump and, because I just wanted to dunk the basketball, but I never could, so it didn't really help. But, it just started thinking of that, solving problems, which, pays off down the way. So, design thinking. What is that? There's a lot of different, if you Google design thinking, there's tons of information out there. So today what I'm going to cover is what I found to be most helpful. The stuff that I'll cover was kind of developed by an institute at Stanford. I think it's the most relevant for what I do and for what you all might do in business. So it's a methodology that provides solution-based approach to solving problems. So yeah, I mean, that kind of makes sense. You're solving problems. But what's different is the flexibility, the collaboration between you, the designer, and I'm going to refer to everybody as designers because we're all designers, and the users. So it's being collaborative, working with those users, and bringing those ideas to life, and using ideas that users, end users, bring back to you to make your product even better. You know, whether it's a web page, a brochure, you know, whatever business you might be in. So it's a way of thinking and working, as well as a collection of different hands-on methods. And it's not exclusive to designers, to graphic designers like myself. Like I said, my dad is a farmer, and I know he was using design thinking way back in the early 80s, you know, when he was always tinkering with stuff and solving problems. So, you know, he was using design thinking back then. So the Hasno Plattner Institute of Design at Stanford, they have a 5-stage model. This is the model that, you know, I've kind of adopted. There's 5 different stages. So empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. So empathize. You need to understand your user when you're working on a problem. You need to see where they're coming from, and that's going to help solve, you know, whatever problem that you might be working on and getting paid to work on. So it's crucial to human-centered design. So we call this human-centered design, where you as the design thinker, you set aside your own assumptions, and you kind of think outside the box and work with, you know, somebody that's outside of your organization. And then you're going to define. So what problem are you trying to solve? You know, analyze your observations and kind of put them into, you know, I'm a designer, but I still use like Excel. Most graphic designers, they just run away from Excel and, you know, spreadsheets as a, you know, but, you know, really define what you're working on and keep track of all the data and observations that you're collecting. And you should seek to define the problem as in like a human-centered manner. And kind of what that means is, so say for example, you know, we'll go back to the ag industry. We're trying to increase productivity a certain percent to feed, you know, this, we're in a third world country. Don't focus on the numbers, focus on the people. We're trying to make more food for these people so they have a better life. You know, you really got to put yourself in their place and focus on the human side of things. Ideate. So come up with as many ideas, as solutions as you can. You know, look for alternative ways. Again, this is where you bring outside people in because they can see things that you might not be able to see. So get as many ideas as you can at the beginning. When I'm doing brainstorming sessions, you know, if I'm working with my designers, working with students, you know, I say there's no idea is a bad idea. Write them all down. Bring them all to the table. We'll get them all out there, and then we'll kind of sort through them afterwards. Because then you can start to combine ideas and come up with the best way to solve that problem. Prototype. So you got some ideas, you're picking the best ones, now you start to kind of prototype. So whether you're prototyping an app or a website, you know, a marketing campaign, you're starting to kind of prototype those ideas and put those, put them into use. You're going through them one by one, and you're really, right now you're paying attention. It's like, is this going to work? Is there something we can improve on? If they're not going to work, then we're going to get rid of them because we're going to focus on the ideas that's really going to, you know, get us to where we're going. And the final stage is test. So what I've done a lot with K-State, and I'll get into this on some of the examples, is working with focus groups, user groups, to get that feedback. So this is the part where you're bringing those users from outside your organization in, and you're feeding off them and using that to really refine your product, come up with the best of the best solution that's going to really solve the problem, and if you're working for a client, produce something that they want and they need. And so refinements and alterations, those are good because, like I said, you're trying to get down to the best product. So this way of design thinking, it's not like on that slide where it showed the little icons. It's not a linear path. You can go about this in a lot of different ways. So say you get to the testing phase, and then you are working with a focus group. You're going to learn about those users through the testing. So you're going to gain even more empathy for them. When you're prototyping, that might spark a new idea. So you're jumping from the prototype back to the idea phase. So this isn't a nonlinear path. It's meant to be flexible, because you're working with a lot of people, and you're just coming up with the best solution. So it's about empowering people, you as the designers, the users, because really what we want to do is have a huge impact, whether it be on our world, community, a certain set of users. So here's 5 quick tips to start design thinking. Cultivate curiosity. Ask lots of questions. Ask as many questions as you can. Human-centered designers, they have the quality that they really like to ask questions. So when you're working on a project, it's like I tell my students, if we're working on a website for a client, get in there and ask as many questions as you can, because they're the content experts, and so you need to kind of put yourself in their shoes. So that's kind of where the empathy phase ties in. Experiment early and often. Don't stop with one sketch. I sketch all the time. You want to get as many ideas down as possible. Collaborate across silos. So work with people that aren't in your discipline. So like when I was at K-State Manhattan, working in the communications and marketing team there, I would work with somebody that was over in the ag college, because if we're working on an ad product, they might not be a designer, but they're bringing ideas that's going to help spark ideas in what I'm trying to create. And then spread those ideas like a virus. Get these in your teams. When I was creative director, one thing I always told my designers was work with everybody in the division, whether it's a writer, a client manager, the secretary up front. Everybody has ideas. And so, work with as many people as possible across your organization. And then go big, go fast, and go for the win. Start with those ideas. You can sacrifice, like I said, get as many as you can. You can sacrifice the ones that aren't going to work, and that's not going to sink you. It's actually going to help. All right. So now I'm going to show some cool stuff. I think it's cool anyway. Stuff that I've worked on myself and with my team at Manhattan and also here in Salina. So going back, before I was creative director, I was actually art director, designer, webmaster. I wore a bunch of hats here on the Salina campus for about 10 years. And this was one of the admissions packages that I came up with. We wanted to have something that was different, that stood out. So again, we worked with students to get ideas. We went on the web every day, just find as many ideas as we could. So one thing that me and my cohorts used was Pinterest. So it's not just for recipes and cool house decor and stuff like that. There's tons of stuff out there for about everything. So we were looking for designs. So we'd look up layout design, print design, page design, logos, just about everything. And then we create boards and we share those with each other. and bounce ideas off each other. So it was a really good way. So if you're not on Pinterest, I'd suggest getting a Pinterest account because it's a nice tool for collaborating. And so we also did, not just the print stuff, but we worked on some videos as well. So the video I'm going to show is one that we collaborated with a local production company on. We really wanted to tell the story of aviation. So we came up with a really good concept, a cool story, and so I'm going to show that now.
Lift and drag, this meant nothing to me as a child. What I remember was the image of those amazing machines that would scrape the blue sky with their sharp edges. My dad called them airplanes. To me, they were a symbol of defiance. A machine, conceived by man to break the chains that constrained me. Immune to the very laws that keep us on the ground. And a sound, that sound, it insisted that everyone for miles take notice. What are you going to be when you grow up? This was never a question. I've always known where I was heading, where I belonged. Words like lift and drag were hammered into theories, wrenched into an explanation of how we can fly. But when it is broken down into its purest form, my impression of flight is still the same. It's freedom. $300 flight hours, 126 credit hours, and a diploma. When I hear that sound, I am back, looking up, chasing those planes across the horizon.
Okay, so that video was really meant to pull on the heartstrings of people that love aviation. So and all the hard work, that paid off because that video there won us a lot of awards. I was really proud of how that turned out. And by the way, I'm using my phone as a clicker, so I'm not just waiting for text messages and stuff, in case you're wondering. So after working here in Salina, I got the call to go up to Manhattan and work as a creative director there for the university. Before I took that job, K-State was kind of all over the place as far as like branding. I remember some of the first meetings, my boss, the vice president up there, we put together, all the different logos and brochures and all these different things across the whole 3-campus system. And there was no consistency whatsoever. So my first job was to develop that consistency. So we decided on a purple. That was going to be the K-State purple. So it's Pantone 268, if you wonder. We developed the word mark, the university word mark, that K-State mark. A lot of people thought the Power Cat was going to go away. The Power Cat never went away. We still use the Power Cat. So something I worked on a lot was the K-State brand guide. So with this, we had to think of all these different aspects of how we want the K-State brand to be portrayed. So again, this is where we had a lot of focus groups, a lot of interviews with faculty across all the different departments, because we wanted to think about all the different ways that the K-State brand is going to be used. So we had to develop how it would be used for colleges down to like departments and offices. There's the Polytechnic word mark when we switched over to the Polytechnic campus. And then the website was something else that I worked on a lot as well, because we wanted to make this brand consistent all the way through from t-shirts to brochures to the website to the video, pretty much anything. Even radio commercials were using the same words that carried that brand. So the focus groups, those were a huge part. After a couple of years, we launched a new package for admissions, but then we went out to focus groups throughout different high schools, brought people into campus, talked with freshmen, K-State, just tried to get a wide variety of prospective students to take a look at our pieces, give us feedback. That's, again, we're going back to the design thinking. We're bringing outside people in. We're getting feedback from them, creating new ideas based off of that, and then taking it back and showing them, hey, what about this? So we went through like 2 different phases of the admissions package. We had one for about 3 years, and then we wanted to go back, take a look at everything, and refine it from there. So then we came up with this package here. It's similar to what we did. They wanted to see bigger photos, more photos. So we tried to incorporate that into the design because they really, they wanted to picture themselves there on campus. And so by using the photography in a way like that kind of helped satisfy those requests that that the high school students were giving us. Right before I left my job as creative director, one of the big projects that we worked on was the university homepage. It hadn't been redesigned for many years, so this was a huge process. Again, we had to get users to go out, test sites that we found and we liked. We had them do usability studies where they would go. We would record them, do screen captures while they were going through these sites, telling us what they liked, what they didn't like, and then collecting all that data and coming back and generating ideas and starting to put together something that was going to work for K-State. So if you haven't been out on the new K-State homepage, it's really nice. It's mobile responsive, which was a huge thing. So it's much better than it was before. And then we also do a lot of videos for K-State as well. So the one I'm going to show here was the latest one that we did. It's basically like what we call the institutional spot. It's the big spot that plays like during football games on TV, basketball games and things like that. So we took everything that we felt was the K-State brand, and we tried to put it into this video.
I know a spot that I love full well.
'Tis not in forest, nor yet in dell. Ever it holds me with magic spell.
I think of thee, alma mater.
Will carry thy banner high. Long, long, may thy colors fly.
Loyal to thee, thy children will swell the cry. Hail, 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 alma mater.
The brand campaign is still going on, so we use the hashtag Wildcat Way on a lot of different pieces. But you know, that video really, you know, that was K-State, Purple, the family, you know, all those different things. So we did, I mean, when I was there as creative director, we worked on stuff for pretty much every college and department across the enterprise. So this was something they worked on for arts and sciences. They had this idea of, well, we want to do something with left brain, right brain. So me and the designers worked up this idea of like, we do this kind of illustration with one side being, you know, a lot of formulas, math, things like that. And then the other side is more color, creative, you know, so we're tying that all together. This was one of my favorite pieces that we did. And so to get there, we went through a lot of different sketches. So does anybody know, so this is going to be, I got a freebie I'm going to give away. Does anybody know what these are? No. Nope. Close. Okay. Okay, so yeah, they're called field notes. Farmers used to have these little books that they would take and they'd like write down like how productive this certain field was, and you know, they'd basically, that was their computer back in the day. So a designer came with this idea like, well, I'm going to market this because you can't find these things anymore. So he's like, we're going to do field notes. We're going to sell them to graphic designers. So I bought in. I thought that was cool. It's like, well, I'm from ag, so I have these little things. I have tons of them. I mean, I take them everywhere. I write down ideas. I sketch out ideas. So here, Greg, you get the. This one is a Kansas branded one, so it's got Kansas facts on it. So yeah, when I go to meetings, you know, I write down, you know, everything. So again, you're going back to the idea of ideating. You're creating, you're putting down as many thoughts as you can. So field notes, they're really cool. So we did a lot of redesigns for a lot of different departments, colleges. It's something that I started when I was on the communications and marketing division there, is we'd create what we called mood boards. So this was something that we would put together after all the meetings with the clients, and then we'd put together like a big board, and we'd come up with like these kind of initial design ideas. We'd put down like colors, textures, you know, we'd come up with some themes that we would use, and then we'd take that and we'd present it to the client, and it was a good way of getting the feedback. So this was kind of like the prototyping phase. So we were prototyping how we were going to brand. So this one was for Olathe, and so you know, we take this to their faculty and get feedback. And so this was a good first step in that prototyping phase, where we would take this, refine it even better, and then get to the testing phase. Again, another one, same thing, human capital services. We worked on a bunch of materials for them. It's another new mood board. One of the last ones I worked on, College of Ag. We redesigned all of their prospective student materials. So we, again, came up with just some initial pieces to get their ideas as far as, like, we want to show this type of photography, you know, the colors, shapes. Just, again, good way of prototyping those ideas that come out of the design thinking phases. And then like the little sketch that I showed before, this was some of the stuff that came out of that. So we're working with the President's Office, talk about the economic development with Manhattan, Riley County, and the area, and what K-State contributes and brings into the, into the area as far as jobs and things like that. So next I'm going to talk about user experience design. One of the projects I got to work on was redoing the university app. The one we had initially really didn't do much at all. It wasn't serving the needs of the students. So this again was another long process, probably about a year, where we would set up focus groups, meet with students. We really wanted to put ourselves in their shoes because they were our main target audience. What do they want to use the app for? So of course they wanted to be able to check grades. Probably the biggest thing was parking garage. They wanted to see if the parking garage was full. So they could look on their phone and it's like, if it's full, okay, I'm not going to go to the parking garage. So we figured out a way to integrate all that. And it went through a lot of different revisions, did a lot of prototyping. So with this, I'd say we used every single phase, the 5-step phase of design thinking to come up with this end product. And ideas are everywhere. So another big project that we worked on was a new research magazine for the university. It's called Seek. Again, this was a collaboration between not only the designers, but the writers, faculty, students, everybody, industry, people that are outside the university, because we wanted to produce a piece that was really impactful and really spoke about what K-State was doing in the research areas. So this is one of my favorite covers. We went out to the Kanza Prairie and did a photo shoot. So we got to, the designer was actually, or the photographer, he was probably about 3 feet away from that buffalo when he took that photo. So, one of the subtle things is you can see like some, probably can't see it on here, but like the reflection in the eyeball of the buffalo shows like a Kanza fire because they burn the prairies. And buffalo actually they like run towards the fires. For some reason, they something with the ash and stuff, they really, I don't know, it was kind of weird. It's like, well, and we learned all kinds of stuff. So business, we did a redesign for College of Business because they were opening a new building there. So again, more collaboration. We worked a lot with the Beach Museum, which was always fun for me because then I got to work with artists that had exhibits. So this one was actually another faculty. He's a printmaking faculty member at K-State, but he does some really cool printmaking and etchings. So I got to work on that. And so my life isn't all about K-State, so it might seem like it. But one of the nice things is I can do freelance design as well. And so with my situation, it's not like I have to make a living off of freelance, so it kind of affords me to kind of pick and choose the clients that I want to work with, which is good. So I try to choose clients that, I really relate to what they're doing, that makes me feel good. Like I worked with a company that puts on, they do a lot of concerts and festivals for like Christian music artists. So I got to work with them and design a lot of, mainly a lot of e-marketing materials, a lot of web stuff. So these were some of the like email marketing materials that I put together. And then probably my favorite client is the Salinas Symphony. So I've been working with the symphony for over 15 years. And so, I love music. I love all kinds of music. So being able to work with the symphony, that's something that I feel passionate about. And so, again, working with the director there, always have great ideas, and we're always kind of bouncing ideas off each other. So we're, if you do something you love, you're going to make stuff that, looks good and, that you're proud of. So we redesigned their website as well. So they had this one was actually, they wanted to use WordPress so they could update, their content as well. So that was something fun to get to work on. All right. So last thing here, probably the thing that I love the most is my family. So the last thing I'm going to show here is something that, I'm proud of and I want to share with everybody. Was a little video that I created for my wife for our 20th wedding anniversary. She thought this was amazing. It was better than any jewelry or anything else that she could ever get. So I'm going to play this little video here and then we'll do questions.
You made me feel as though I wasn't off. We danced the night away, we drank too much. I held your hair back when you were throwing up. Then you smiled over your shoulder. For a minute I was stone cold sober. I pulled you closer to my chest and you asked me to stay over. I said I already told you, I think that you should get some rest. I knew I loved you then, but you'd never know. 'Cause I played it cool when I was scared of letting go. I knew I needed you, but I never showed. But I wanna stay with you until we're grown old. Just say you won't let go. Just say you won't let go. I'll wake you up with some breakfast in bed. I'll bring you coffee with a kiss on your head. And I'll take the kids to school, wave them goodbye. And I'll thank my lucky stars for that night. When you looked over your shoulder, for a minute I forget that I'm older. I wanna dance with you right now. Oh, and you look as beautiful as ever, and I swear that every day you'll get better. You make me feel this way somehow. I'm so in love with you, and I hope you know, darling, your love is more than worth its weight in gold. We've come so far, my dear, look how we've grown. And I wanna stay with you until we're great and old. Just say you won't let go. Just say you won't let go. I wanna live with you, even when we're ghosts. 'Cause you were always there for me when I needed you most. I'm gonna love you till my lungs give out. I promise till death we part, like in our vows. So I wrote this song for you, now everybody knows that it's just you and me till we're gray and old. Just say you won't let go. Just say you won't let go. Just say you won't let go. Oh, just say you won't let go.
Kind of shows the power of digital storytelling there at the end, so Great job. We have time, 15 minutes for questions. So I feel a little guilty about receiving this little booklet here. I kind of have an ag background, so I picked up on that pretty fast. So I'm going to give this to the person that asks the most intriguing question. This is called Stump the Speaker. So if you could stump Mike, Mike will give this to you. So in the back. Let's try to get the questions on the microphone if we can.
Okay, thanks, Michael. I'd like for you to try to empathize with some of our students and think about where they're coming from in doing the projects they're doing. And I think a lot of times they work with an owner or a sponsor, but how can they get that feeling about really the end user? Can you give them some clues about how they can think through that?
Yeah, so a lot of it is, you know, I feel big on face-to-face communications, and I know a lot of times that's not possible, but you can try like video conferencing, video chatting, but you know, you can learn a lot just from having conversations, especially when you start telling, you know, you get into storytelling. You know, I always try to put a little bit of storytelling into everything I do. So really that the communication is going to lead to them putting themselves in that person's shoes. You know, hopefully they can gain a better relationship and kind of understand where those people are coming from. And then on the flip side, you know, hopefully the students can maybe tell a little bit about themselves and where they come from, so whoever they're working with can kind of understand, you know, the shoes that they're in as well.
Thank you. She stole my question and he answered it, so that's okay. But I got another. Okay. I was wondering about, you know, oftentimes on movies you see a thing at the end that says no animals were harmed in the making of this, whatever. And I'm wondering about the little boy and the airplane with the crop dust.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it actually all that was it's like smoke. It wasn't chemicals or anything. So they did that for effect.
I didn't stump him after all.
Yeah, the pilot did that for effect, and actually we'd gotten comments about that before as well. So yeah, there was no chemical sprayed on the boy in the bike, so he's good.
What are your 3 biggest design influences outside of Mr. Draplin?
Okay. Gosh, so going back to college, so I guess a little bit, you know, I went to Fort Hays State. Actually didn't go to K-State College. I went to Fort Hays State University through their design program. And at the time, there was a designer named Dave Carson. He really took typography and went in like a whole new direction with it. And so a lot of my stuff that I worked on in college and kind of my early design was really influenced off of him. Milton Glassner, another famous designer, great stuff. And then probably the other one would be my professor at Fort Hays State. His name is Chai Wat. He's from Thailand. So it was kind of coming from Western Kansas, you know, I'd never really interacted with anybody from another country or anything. So when I went to school at Fort Hays, he was my advisor and my professor, and that was just an eye-opener for me. I mean, he was so intelligent, and his designs were just, you know, amazing. And so I learned just so much from him. So he's probably been one of my biggest influences.
I have a question, Mike. The language that was used on several of the brochures, what's the process for getting to the succinct kind of wording that is found there?
So a lot of that is our editors work closely with clients. You know, they'll get as much info as they can from clients. Something too that I like to do is what I call a creative dig, where if I'm working on something, I'll just go out online and just find as much as I can about that topic or other things that were similar that, to find text, content that could be used. And then really it's a collaboration between the editors and the clients and the designers, everybody. I always tell my designers, read the text. Don't just sit and copy and paste it into the brochures. Actually read what you're designing because you might see something that somebody else didn't catch. And as far as like branding wise, the university has like a style guide that we try to follow that has all of the styles when it comes to editing that we try to follow.
So I'm curious how you went from farm kid to graphic designer then. And so I don't think we heard that part of the story. How did you discover graphic design and decide that's what you wanted to go into?
Okay, so, gosh, I guess in middle school, the same guy that did the shoe thing, he introduced me to this band called Metallica. This, heavy metal rock band, and I fell in love. I was like, oh, this is the coolest stuff. It's like I'm kind of going through a little bit of a, trying to go against the grain a little bit, but just seeing that artwork and stuff me and him, both of us would we just resketch and draw like the logos, and then I really got into like Nike and for some reason just logos started, and I just love to like draw and recreate them and kind of put my own touch on them. And then when I decided to go to college, my mom is a teacher. She's been an elementary teacher forever. I was going to go into art education, so I started out in that path, and then decided, well, I don't think I want to work with these little kids all the time. So then that's when I found graphic design, and rest is history, I guess.
Okay, I have a question, Michael. Do you remember, so Michael and I started at communications and marketing at about the same time. Do you remember how many logos we started with when we did that whole audit with Jeff for the university?
Oh gosh, like an exact number?
Roughly.
A lot. There was a lot. So I think you kind of stumped me there because I don't know the exact number.
I think it was around 25.
Yeah, I was thinking.
Give or take.
Between 20 and 30, somewhere in there. So.
It was a lot.
Give her the field notes. The field notes.
So she's got the field, but Gary's got a question now.
Okay.
How many political campaigns have you strategized and developed and designed?
Political campaigns? 0. That's something that I've done.
Are you open to that, or does that not interest you at all?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always open to new things.
There's lots of money in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you do when you're working with a client who knows that they want something but have no idea what they want?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that happens a lot. So again, it goes back to that, what I call the creative dig. I try to not necessarily design stuff myself, but I go out and I find things that I think they might like, and I encourage them to share those things with me as well. I'll give the Salina Symphony. Executive director is here as well, so it's Adrian. I've worked with her forever. She does a great job of sharing with me like a visual stuff that she might find that she's thinking she might want to use for certain concerts or stuff. So, and a lot of times you might not know exactly what she wants, but by sharing that with me, it helps give me an idea of the direction to go. So I think having the clients provide as much reference material to you as possible is going to help that, help you come up with something that they want instead of kind of just trying to take shots in the dark.
Michael, let me follow up on that question. That was really a very, very practical question. How do you stop mission creep when it takes away your profit because the customer says, I like what you showed me, let's do this, 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 and this.
Yeah.
All right?
Like I'll do a freelance example. So a lot of times what I would do, I don't do as much freelance as I did in the past, but I would set up, contracts ahead of time with them. So we were all on board with how many revisions there's going to be, how long, what's the time frame on this. If we go past so many revisions, then there's going to be this amount of dollars added on to the project. And we tried to do that as well at the communications and marketing, especially with video, because for some reason we'd have clients that just would want revision after revision after revision on videos. And so then it was just taking so much time, and then we were getting past their deadlines and they were getting angry. So by coming up with a project agreement form ahead of time, so everybody's on the same page, that way that keeps kind of everybody in the place where they feel comfortable. So. How much purple? I love purple. I've grown to like purple. So I think it's important because it's the brand for K-State. It's part of the brand. The purple is K-State, so there needs to be purple. I wouldn't just say everything needs to be purple, like purple shade of text and a purple background and a purple logo. I've seen stuff that's been overdone. Yeah.
I have one.
Yeah.
Can you share some resources maybe that you've used after your education that you use to keep on top of your design thinking?
Sure. I subscribe to a bunch of YouTube channels. Like Adobe has some great stuff as far as technical stuff, so I can keep up with software, what's new. So I subscribe to Adobe. There's lots of different sites out there there's lots of branding sites. Really all you got to do is just Google branding blogs, stuff like that. And there's lots of different ones that you can follow. So I just try to, that's one thing I try to do. Now that I'm teaching, I've kind of gotten away from it a little bit, but I need to try to keep up on it is, once a day in the morning, just kind of see what's new and what's out there. So it's really helpful in seeing what the current design trends are, styles. So I also subscribe to some magazines like Communication Arts, How Design Magazine as well. Those always have great articles and references.
We have time for probably one more question. If someone has one, okay.
How do you deal with creative differences with a customer, such as you design stuff, you think it looks good, they don't, and you just, I always have the problem of I always design a certain style, but I can never get out of that. How do you get out of that slump?
Yeah. So one thing I learned kind of the hard way is you can't take any critique personally. They're not critiquing you as a person. They're just critiquing the work, and so, they probably have an idea of what they like and what they want. And so a lot of it is communication. You're going to have to sometimes, if it's for a client, they're the ones that are, a lot of times are paying for it. So, you're going to go with what they want. But really also reminding them that a lot of times you're designing stuff not for them, but for their users, people that they're trying to get to buy their product or sign up for their service or whatever it is. So I'm reminding them that, this is for the end user, not necessarily them. That was something that actually came across a lot at K-State is we'd have to tell administrators, we're designing this for high school students. So, this might be something that you might not think looks good, but according to our focus groups and the research and the data that we've done, this is something that the high school students really like, and we're trying to target them as the target audience, and so just that communication, and once they understood that, they're like, oh yeah, well, that makes total sense. So, okay.
Okay, in ending, do you have any other ending thoughts, comments you want to make?
Nope, we're born for greatness, so be great.
I want to thank everyone for coming. Next month, we're going to look at immigration, and then after that, cryptocurrency. So we'll see you next month.
Okay. Uh-huh.